shaking my head and my negative Nancy feel after that Buffalo game where they don't. All I can tell you is
Dolphins number one, baby!
Names up, baby.
Dolphins
Names
number
up.
one!
I swear, if a certain quarterback is mentioned in the comments, got my beers ready. I'm gonna crack it open.
Or is it the Serbian kid?
Serbia kid!
This looks done. Oh my god, it looks fantastic.
I'm the man. I said it, and it's reality. All right.
congratulations.
Welcome to Once Upon a Sunday Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Josh Kimmel. With me, my good time buddy, longtime friend, great Dolphins fan, Brian Richie. What's up, my dude?
What's up, dude?
Good. Man, hey, it's your first time. I was on your show one time at one point. It's your first time coming on mine. I know you're a big fantasy guy. Before we get into everything, I just want to let everyone know, all of my podcast listeners not watching live on YouTube, go ahead and go over to YouTube real quick. Hit that subscribe button. You can find us at Fins Talk Sports Network on YouTube. We're at 760 subscribers right now. Last week, we were at 748. And I told y'all I want 1,000 by the NFL draft. So great work. Good job. I don't know if it was me. I'm not going to take full credit, but I'm like the only one putting down the challenge, the gauntlet. So come on, guys. Step it up, 1,000 before the NFL draft. Today, we are going to break down the Miami Dolphins fantasy outlook for the 2023 season. Talk about the Tua situation, talk about the receivers and the terrible running backs, like beyond terrible. Like I don't even want to talk about that.
Man, that's
but
hard.
Brian,
That's hard.
but Brian, I see you're all like, that's the cool. I've never seen that jersey. I've never seen you wear that jersey ever. That's pretty cool.
The man. You know, it's funny. We finally got Zach in the hall, and I was trying to rifle through my closet to see if I still had the old Zach ones when I was like 12. That's the only one that I still got. It doesn't quite fit well anymore, so I had to bust out the Dan Marino. So.
Nice. Yeah, last week I wore my Zach Thomas jersey that I explained it on the show. The what is it? The Sacco Award. You have to dress up like a clown to the draft. Somebody, Jeremy, our buddy Jeremy Waldrop, dressed up as me, as I'm the clown, and they wore a Zach Thomas jersey, and it was very hurtful at the time.
Cool.
But you know what? I didn't let it bug me. I said, that's a good idea, guys. Good idea, because I would have done the same thing, but I would have dressed as someone else.
You gotta find a way to get him back now, man. That's tough.
Man, but you know what? He's a great guy. I love Jeremy. You know who it was? Davey. It was Davey's idea. We all know. He's the mastermind behind all that nonsense. So let's get right into it. Let's get right into Tua. That's the big topic here. Everyone on this network is either a Tua hater or a Tua lover. There's no one in between, and that's kind of like the fan motto as well. I'm unsure on you. I don't know. Sometimes you're with Tua, sometimes you're not. Yeah. I'd like to hear it right now. Where do you stand?
Man, I mean, it's hard to make it black and white, right? So, like, man, the first full year of starting, right, it's hard to judge him, right? Because you're dealing with Brian Flores. You know, you're dealing with an offense that's not really built for him. You know, I think the frustrations of having watched guys like Ryan Tannehill for so many years kind of is always in the back of your mind, at least for me, watching Tua. And it's like, you know, I just felt like as being a fan and making excuses for Tannehill for so many years, I was like worried, okay, are we doing the same thing for Tua, right? Is it really the offensive coordinator? Is it the head coach? Like, are these the reasons that he's failing? So I'm not gonna lie, you know, my confidence definitely wavered in him, you know, last year a little bit. And, seeing like big games, how it just seemed like the moment was too big for him. But, you know, this year, I think that people who really watched Tua understood that what he can do if you build an offense around him, right? Guys that, you know, he's kind of a great, like, sort of point guard, right? It was just, everyone always said, like, if you can be Drew Brees and kind of be the point guard and facilitate, you know, that can be a great offense. I think we saw flashes of that last year. Now, obviously the main concern is, can he stay healthy, right? And so for me, I think from a talent perspective, I think Tua proved what he needed to prove last year. I mean, still some question marks, but I think he's in an offense where he can continue to get better. But can he stay healthy? And I think that's the answer that everyone wants, but nobody really has, right? So I'm kind of on the fence. I think from a talent perspective, I'm on the Tua train, but can he stay healthy? Dolphins got to have some backup options.
Yeah, backup is probably the biggest. I've already said this on this network. The biggest concern, the biggest need for this Miami Dolphins team is the backup quarterback. But unfortunately, we don't worry about backup quarterbacks in fantasy. We worry about the starters. And when Tua played, he was pretty damn good. It started in week 2 against Baltimore. It started right away. Like week 1 was kind of rocky. We're like, what's going on with this offense? Like, is this the real deal? Yep. Week 2, they started getting blown out, and it's like, oh boy, this isn't gonna be well. And then they went nuts. It's like, okay, this is it. Like, just throw the ball deep and let's see these guys play. Now with the fantasy outlook with Tua, I think he can sustain a full top 5 season with Waddle and Tyreek and a couple guys out of the backfield. Like, what do you think? Do you think he would sustain that, or do you think they would have toned him down a little bit and just focused more on managing games?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. I think as Tua grows in the offense, I think also Mike McDaniel will grow as a head coach and as a play caller. And I think that last year there were points, I'm sure you'd probably agree with me, as much as we love it from a fantasy perspective, how much the Dolphins were throwing the ball. I think from a health standpoint, from a team standpoint of trying to gain a winning streak, you got to run the ball. You got to have more balance, right? And I think that Tua was phenomenal last year with his opportunities. And I can see why when you have guys like Waddle, you have Tyreek on the outside, again, that's very tempting, right, to call that many pass plays. But I think his ceiling can be capped a little bit in the future is getting back to more of a balance. And like you mentioned, again, the running back situation, I know we're going to get into that a little bit, but if they get more of a sustainable run game, does that scale back on Tua's workload, or his pass attempts, that enable him to put up gaudy fantasy numbers? So I'm not really sure. I mean, I think definitely the ceiling is there to be top 5. I think he proved that, right? But there's a lot still, I think, in the works to kind of see how this offense continues to change as they continue adding guys to it.
Yeah, a lot of people will tell you, and I'm kind of one of them, and it's not a bad thing. Like, this is not a bad thing at all. I feel like this season Tua peaked with his numbers, not with his I guess not with a full season, but with his numbers in that stretch. I feel like that's the best Tua will ever see. With Tyreek, with Waddle, at this current state of that offense, that's the best. With the lacking of the run game, like you said, they're going to have to address that. I don't think they want Tua throwing the ball that much. I don't think they want Tua to be the one out there throwing for 450 yards a game. He's not that kind of player. He's a smart, precise, accurate player, and I think he's not going to be overdrafted this year coming up in the 2023 season because of the injury. But I feel like if he stayed healthy and he kept on putting up like 15, 17 points a game, he would be overdrafted, kind of like how Justin Fields is right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for the rest of Tua's career, at least for the foreseeable future, he's always going to be kind of that value draft pick, right? It's like he definitely was last year. The guys that, whoever took a chance on him in their drafts, probably were pretty happy with that. I know for me, like, he wasn't my starting quarterback that I drafted, but I took a shot on him and I was happy for that stretch, right? Because you're getting the production that you didn't really expect. But like you said, I think that, he's shown that potential, but he's not going to, I don't think, match that in terms of his average draft position in most leagues, right? Because people still have the question marks. Can he stay healthy? And as you alluded to, there's some haters out there still, right? So there's people that are still non-believers.
Yeah, and there's always going to be non-believers. I don't know when he'll ever prove anyone wrong. I don't think he ever will. I think they'll kind of like the Jameis haters and Jameis lovers. You'll always love Jameis. People here in Tampa, will always defend Jameis, and they kind of like, oh, bring him back. Like Brady's got. People always have a side, and they don't really change. And it's kind of weird. Like, it's really weird to change on a player. Like, I did that this year with Michael Thomas. Last year, I was all over him. Like, yeah, he's a great player. Yeah, he had time off. And then this year, coming into 2023, I'm like, no, he's washed. Like, I can change my mind. Like, he's just not that guy anymore. Yeah. But that's not to this topic. But so, would you entertain this theory of Lamar Jackson coming over to Miami, replacing Tua? On paper, it looks great. On paper, it looks fun. I'm gonna let you speak on it first. What do you think about this?
Oh man, okay, yeah. Listen, it's a tough topic, right? I mean, it's a whole different conversation, I think, when you're taking into account salary cap, right? Because first of all, we don't have any picks left, right? At this point, the Dolphins have completely shifted their philosophy away from stockpiling draft picks and now making trades, going out and getting players. Like, it's a complete reverse in the strategy that we saw a couple of years ago. So that, I think, plays into it. I mean, I think if you're having a hypothetical conversation where draft capital or the salary cap is not really an issue, yeah, I mean, why not entertain that, right? I mean, obviously, we know the guy's potential. He's been an MVP winner before. I personally still have questions about Lamar's capabilities to win in the playoffs and again, be that sort of pocket passer when you're facing tougher defenses who have a whole season of tape and, things. Obviously, the field shrinks a little bit in the playoffs, and you have to be that guy. We see, obviously, Mahomes doing what he does now. I would still like to see some more development from Lamar as a passer, but would I entertain the thought of that? I mean, I think you'd be crazy to say no to that, I think.
Okay, so you looked at it more of as a football stance, as in a football winning games mode, which is okay because if you're winning games, you're scoring points. If you're scoring points, you're scoring fantasy points. Yeah. I think this would open up this Miami Dolphins offense tremendously, and there'd be fantasy points worldwide. How could you cover Tyreek and Waddle, and then spy Lamar? And then we'll also look out for the run game that McDaniels likes to run with whatever running back they choose or can get. Like, that'd be sick. Now, for a passing outlook, probably not as great. You're probably going to take down Waddle a little bit. You're going to take down Hill a little bit. Because if you look at Lamar's stats, and plus, don't forget this, he's missed 10 games over the past 2 years. That's a lot. You're talking about health. We're talking about Tua can't stay on the field. Look, Lamar hasn't finished the season in 2 seasons. Seriously, he's been on the sidelines as Huntley's over there taking over that team trying to make the playoffs. So you can't really count on him down the stretch like you couldn't count on Tua. Hey, what's going on, Anthony? Thanks for stopping by, man. Hey, drop us a like. It helps out the show. Thank you. So we have this situation where Tua is super accurate, right? Deep ball, accuracy number 1. Deep ball attempts, yards per attempt, number 1. Yards per, air yards, number 3. Like, people say that he's dinking and dunking. No, he was throwing deep. Yeah. Lamar 31st overall in deep ball attempts and completion percentage. That's not gonna be okay with Tyreek. That's just not that offense.
Yeah, and I think too that there's always the argument, right? Is that have the Ravens done enough to build around Lamar? Obviously, you've got Mark Andrews. I love Mark Andrews. I'm not exactly sure what happened to him this year. I mean, I know it's a separate topic we can get into later, but I had a lot of stock in him this year that didn't quite pan out for me the best. But man, I think it's an interesting argument, right? If you give Lamar, Tyreek, and Waddle, what does he look like as a passer in that offense? So it's fun to think about.
Yeah, it is fun to think about. To answer the chat, did you see the question in the chat from Anthony?
I missed that one. Sorry.
No, that's all right. What's your favorite? There it is right there. What rookie quarterback can you guys see doing well in fantasy this upcoming season from the 2023 draft? It's tough, man.
I think it's all about where guys go, right? If Bryce goes to the Texans, they still don't really have a lot of talent there, man. And it's always tough, right? You want opportunity from a rookie quarterback. You see guys like Kenny Pickett. I agree with Josh. So you have to see where they land to kind of make that opinion. That's kind of my stance on it too. Like, where do they land, right? What kind of situation? None of the guys that get drafted, like, obviously really high are going to be in great situations. But, man, in terms of just having weapons, the Texans were bare bones last year. So I think whatever quarterback goes there is going to be tough. You just got to see what's around them. What do they do in free agency? I think it's still too early to say that right now. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on that?
Exact same situation. Look, here's the way I look at it, especially right now, coming out of the Senior Bowl. Last year, me and my co-host over the Beer and Sports, we loved Malik Willis. We saw him in person, right? We were watching him in the Senior Bowl. We were pretty much drooling over this kid. Strongest arm on the field, looking the greatest, honestly. And Desmond Ridder looked terrible. Kenny Pickett looked terrible out there. Seriously. And so at that time, we thought Willis was the guy. So it's kind of hard right now to speak on these players because if I gave you an answer at this time last year, I would tell you Malik Willis, and I would say I'm a freaking idiot. I just need more time to watch more film, and I need more time to see, like you said, where these players are landing, there's so much going on right now. I'll look at that past free agency, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there's so much that the teams can do to kind of improve their situations. I don't know exactly what the Texans cap space looks like. I would imagine they have quite a bit to work with, but what kind of weapons they adding, right? If you put a better situation around that rookie quarterback, knowing that you're going to draft a rookie quarterback, which is what smart teams do, I think some of those teams up at the top are going to have better situations. Right now, it kind of looks kind of ugly. The Colts situation, I think a quarterback that lands there, they've got weapons, right? You got Jonathan Taylor, you got Michael Pittman. I mean, they got some young guys that are starting to blossom there. We obviously know what Jonathan Taylor can do, but as far as the rookie receivers go, you got weapons. So I think the Colts can be one of those kind of dark horse places where if a rookie QB comes in, like that might be a place where, he has room to develop, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I know you're a Gator guy. I know. Let's not be quiet about it. This quarterback out there, man, what's the deal? What's going on? What's the hype? What's it all about? I know it's not on our line, but what's it about?
I got to tell you, I have a bet going with a buddy who, I'm a diehard Gator fan. I went to school there. I'm an alumni. I love my Gators, man, but it's frustrating they haven't been relevant in a while. And Anthony Richardson has all the talent in the world, man. I mean, as far as the ceiling goes, I get it, right? Because you see guys like Jalen Hurts, how he's developed. You see guys like Josh Allen. Like, those guys had major passing issues, right? And they've developed because you get smart coaches around them. They know how to develop them. So I understand the argument behind Anthony Richardson, but I just feel like as a prospect, he's so incredibly raw as a passer. I mean, taking snaps under center, that's going to be something that alone he has to work on, right? Then you have his, short intermediate accuracy. He's got a cannon for an arm, but can he read a defense, right? Can he consistently do all the things that you need to do as a top draft prospect? And man, just to see him rocketing up the draft board right now, we got a Dogs fan in here, of course. No, man, I want the best situation for him, and I just feel like with his draft stock rising, it's going to hurt him because if he goes top 5, top 10, he's going to be in a bad situation where he's going to be expected to start, and he needs to sit for a while, I think, to develop, to reach his potential.
No, I definitely agree with that. I see people thinking he's a day one starter. There's no way. He's a Trey Lance situation where you need to sit, nurture, hope for the best. One last question, then we'll get back. We're going to jump onto the running back situation in Miami. But one last question. I believe he asked, can you pop that question back up? It was something regarding, oh, man, Bobby, where'd you go? That's right. We'll get to it when he pops it up. But it was a good question. I want to talk about it with you. But we'll go over to the running back situation. Miami doesn't have anyone. Literally no one of relevant on this roster.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they're going to do because, like we said, the cap space is horrendous. Greer doesn't like drafting running backs, apparently. We've seen it time and time again. Could have had Javonte. Could have had this guy. Could have had that guy. Could have had so many guys. Just didn't work out for us, unfortunately. I'm just hoping they don't bring in some bum Kareem Hunt, broken down running back. I just hope. Or I don't want to see a 31-year-old Raheem Mostert coming back. I just don't want a boring, meh Jeff Wilson. Like, I want stardom.
Well, I mean, I think you nailed it, right? Like, Greer, I think he has some sort of, like, inhibiting factor. He just physically cannot draft a running back, right? At least not early. He gave us Myles Gaskin, I think, the 6th or 7th round 2 years ago. Like, for some reason, is.
I'm sorry, Gaskins. Like,
I agree with you because I mean, I was banging the table for Javonte too. I mean, it's perplexing, right? Because and again, traditionally, you don't want to spend a lot of draft capital on running backs. Personally, my philosophy, I say this all the time when I talk to my buddies about this, I would draft a running back in the 2nd round every 4 years, and because you're getting good value there in the 2nd round, you're getting a guy who has really high upside, right? But never re-sign him, right? Just every 4 years, just repeat, 2nd round. You're getting good talent there at the 2nd round, but you're not spending a lot of draft capital because it's only once every 4 years, and you're not wasting cap space. You see this all the time. These guys, these teams, like they give these big contracts away to these running backs, and how often does that pan out, right? Almost never in today's NFL.
Never. CMC, like that's about it.
Yeah.
Like seriously, CMC. I think Henry's paid off for his but not much. Yeah, I just want to see because I feel like the Dolphins haven't. We've spoken about this many times on this show, shows on the network. The Dolphins' running game has always been pathetic, unless his name is Ricky Williams and like that one half a year of Ronnie Brown. And it's just so frustrating. It really is. Like for once, I'd like to have a nice dominant running back, like someone that is scared. Like you were scared to tackle this guy, or you can't catch him. Like for once, like I saw some rumors about DeAndre Swift being on the block. I think they'd be a great fit here in Miami. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very high on Swift coming into last year in the draft. In my home league, the one that I care the most about, I took him as my first round draft pick. Obviously got burned. Trying to figure out what's going on there with his situation with Dan Campbell. But I think in this offense, yes, I think that Swift has turned out to be a guy who probably needs to be in the right system, right, in an offense that knows how to utilize the skill set. Clearly, last year, Dan Campbell. He preferred Jamal Williams at the goal line. He liked his skill set, and Jamal Williams is not a barn burner. Had a great year, right? But he's not a guy I think that really scares a lot of defenses, right? But I think when you factor in DeAndre Swift's catching skill set, I think he fits this offense perfectly and gives us that element, for the Dolphins anyways, that maybe they're missing out of the backfield, right? Opens up, you can line them up in the slot, have Harris in a mismatch. So I agree with that. I mean, the price has to be right, though, right? Because we're in a tough cap situation, but I think Swift will be a guy that definitely they could explore.
Yes, Swift or somebody in that realm. I wouldn't mind a rookie. I wouldn't mind a veteran, but you got to pair him with someone dynamic like Swift, whoever we get, because did you ever look at the stats with Mostert and with Edmonds and with Jeff Wilson? Like, did you ever actually go look at their stats?
Like yard per carry or just
anything. Like just anything. They're just bad. Like it's just there was no explosive plays. I was on Player Profiler today, and I was like, I think I have a better evaded tackle rate than Raheem Mostert. I don't know. It was just really bad. And no creativity. How about that? I don't feel like for all the hype of this new coaching staff coming in, there was zero creativity in the run game. I thought we'd see more Tyreek out. Go ahead. I'll go ahead.
I agree with you. I think, utilizing some of those, I would have loved to see. I felt like watching a lot of games, it felt almost as if they were going to set up some of those reverses, right? Jet sweeps, Tyreek and Waddle. It just almost seemed like that never got called, So I agree with you on that aspect. I probably like Mostert more so than you. Again, is he a guy that you want to like carries your workhorse? Of course not, right? But I think that he showed a little bit of pop last year. But I agree with you. I think that the best option for them is to try to pair with a running back. You're looking at a guy like maybe Zach Charbonnet, like someone that they're going to be able to get kind of near the third round. And, someone of value, right? Running backs, their draft stock has kind of dropped a little bit recently. So I think looking at that guy, I like the A-Chain guy out of Texas A&M. I think he's another guy who can be an impact rookie running back, if we're talking about fantasy, year one, depending on his landing spot. So I just think that there's options where you don't have to spend big because I'm not a fan of that.
All right. Now that I have you here, and I don't think I'll have you on before the draft, Bijan, where are you okay? Real life NFL, first round? Like, are you okay with him being the first round pick?
Oh, absolutely, man. I love Bijan Robinson. I said this to my friends, and I got laughed at actually when I said this. And it does sound a bit crazy to say this, but I've watched the guy his entire time at Texas. I think if he stays healthy, I think he could end up in the Hall of Fame. I think he has that perfect blend of power, speed. He's got great catching ability. He's a guy that's dynamic. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Adrian Peterson watching him at Oklahoma.
I was just going to bring that up. I'm like, I said that last week, and they were like, no, he's too small. No this, no that. I'm like, dude, I'm just talking about the way he dominates a game. Yeah. And everything. Like, that's what I comp him to, too. And I just think he's worth every. I wish Miami could. They won't, but I wish. Like, just trade up. Like, I don't know.
I tell you right now, I think he's going to end up on the Eagles, and I think that's going to be a great situation for him because I think that with their commitment to the run, I think they're going to let Miles Sanders walk. What do you think about the Miles Sanders situation? You think they're going to let him walk?
They should let him walk. Honestly, they should, and they probably will. They're, that they have too many people to pay over there, right? Yeah. too much, so you have to. You can't re-sign these running backs. Same thing with Dalvin Cook over there in Minnesota. They got to let him go out of that contract. I think there's gonna be Joe Mixon as well. I think we're gonna see some major names being released, starting with Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon, and some guys just not re-signing, like Saquon. I don't think he's gonna return to New York. Do you?
I don't think so either, because now they're caught in the situation with Daniel Jones. What do you do with his contract, right? I mean, the amount that he's asking for, they have a big decision to make with that, right? And if they pay him, there's not much left over for Saquon, right? So,
right, yeah.
I think Saquon's a guy that's definitely going to hit the block. I think he's gonna be playing on a new team soon.
Yeah, and then that goes to the thing is like you don't want to pay a running back X amount of dollars on their second, third contract. So will Saquon be worth whoever pays them? And we've seen it last year, and we've seen it years before. These running backs, they don't get as much. Le'Veon Bell, and when he was holding out, he didn't get nowhere near what he wanted. And when he finally signed with somebody, he was toast. Yeah. Completely toast. So running backs die off very fast.
Yeah, very short shelf life, and that's why, again, I don't agree with paying them. You know, you got these guys, sometimes they're still dynamic when they enter free agency, but the wheels fall off so fast, you know. So,
yes.
You know, for me, I just, you know, obviously I think the Cowboys find a way to keep Tony Pollard. I don't think that you let a guy that dynamic get away. I know he's coming off injury, but I just don't see him hitting the market, right? They either re-sign him or they got a tough situation, right? Cowboys have a lot of big name free agents and they have some decisions to make. You know, you got Dalton Schultz, another guy I'd love the Dolphins to go after if he's out there on the market, but you know, so.
Yes. Okay. One last question from Anthony real quick. Josh and Brian never got your answer in terms of fancy rookie running backs like Cameron Peoples and Kenny McIntosh. What do you expect out of them this year in fantasy? A lot of these, I'll just start off. A lot of these situations, no matter who they are, a Zamir White, a James Cook, speaking last year, Dameon Pierce, it all depends on the opportunity. Running backs all about opportunity. You would think Rachaad White would start over Leonard Fournette because he's more athletic. He's just a better player at this point of his career, right? Same thing with a James Cook over Devin Singletary. But it didn't matter because these players had tenure, Fournette and Singletary, and these other rookies were playing behind. And once we all saw December, January come around, Cook and Rachaad White were out snapping Fournette. So what I'm trying to say is you don't know until they're drafted. And that's what I hate to speculate on these other running backs besides the big Bijans. Like, okay, we could talk about him. But these other guys, we need to know where they're going. Dameon Pierce would not be a starter. Sorry, I love Dameon Pierce. I really do. I think he's a beast. But I don't think he would start on half the leagues or half the teams because of the other talent. He just got lucked into a situation where he was the only guy there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the things you're looking at, too, from a fantasy perspective, if you're looking at rookie running backs, you know, where they're drafted definitely matters a ton, but also like look for the skill sets that will enable them to find their way onto the field, right? So you're looking for things like what are their pass catching abilities, right? Are they a dynamic prospect? If you have a guy that's mostly on the field just for 2 downs because he's not really a receiving option, you know, not a big threat on 3rd down, that's going to severely hinder his ability to break into the field, you know, as a rookie. You know, even some things like intangibles that don't really show up on fantasy, like pass blocking, right? That's obviously very important in a coach's perspective, right? So you're looking for guys that can find their way on the field. You look at a perfect example is Dameon Pierce, right? A guy that wasn't drafted super high. Most of the Florida fans who watched him like knew the potential that he had, but you're looking for guys that are like great, like pass blockers, right? He's a guy that throws his head in there. Like he's not afraid to get physical, does the dirty work, and like that impresses coaches, right? So you get Dameon Pierce, get that early opportunity to take over for Rex Burkhead as the number one, you know, and again, week 1, everyone's like, you know, people on different sides of the fence. I saw this in Dynasty this year. I know I talked to you about it too. Mm-hmm. After week 1, people were like, you know, pumping their chests that were like Dameon Pierce haters because they're like, see, this guy, he was drafted later. He's not going to see the field. And all of a sudden it completely switches courses on the second week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah.
Things like, do the guys impress the coaches?
Ooh, yeah, that's all that matters. Oh, we got a tough one in the chat. This isn't fantasy related, but it's Byron Jones related. He's asking me specifically about how I feel about it, but I want to start with you, Brian. I have my thoughts on this. Do you have any thoughts on Byron Jones?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's tough, right? When more information comes out, I think that as fans, you know, here's the thing. As a fan, I think you have every right to be upset when you don't have answers, right? That's the thing. There's not a lot of transparency when you're dealing with the Byron Jones situation, like because we just sat last year through Will Fuller, right? Perfect situation where the guy has a finger injury, and it's like, okay, how long does it take this guy to come back from a finger injury, right? But what we don't get is some of those details behind the scenes of like, what are these guys doing in rehab? Do they have any setbacks, right? So I think naturally most people, when they see the Byron Jones stuff come out, I think you look at that and you're like, okay, I kind of feel bad now. I was so hard on him last year. I was personally very critical of Byron Jones as well. Either way, though, Josh, I think at this point, I don't think the guy is going to come back as a Dolphin, right? You reach that point where even if it's not really his, like he wasn't holding himself out, whatever, I think that you just reach a point with that relationship where it's like, okay, it's best to probably, part ways. Does he retire? Does he not? But at this point, I don't see him ever playing for the Dolphins again.
Right, yeah. My thing is this, and it's always been this from day one, and I take it back to Michael Thomas. Everyone criticized him for sitting out, for getting the surgery during the season, for basically not loving football. Can't see that. My situation is you got hurt at work, you're going to rehab on work. We would all do it. We would all do this in our workplace. If we got hurt on the job, we would make sure, and I'm not saying this is related to Byron Jones, but what I'm saying is these are human beings and they're people just like us. And if you don't want to be somewhere, get out. And I understand he got paid a ton of money. A lot of people are saying, oh, he got paid a ton of money. I get it. I understand. But he's a person just like us. I stay out of people's personal lives. It's not my business what he does. It's really not my business. And it never will be my business. It's none of our business. So that's the way I've always thought on this kind of situation. Same thing with Andrew Luck. Same with everyone. With everyone. It's their life. It's their situation. It's their journey. We're just watching. Yeah,
for sure. And I think you see that disconnect too. I mean, especially if you're talking about the topic of fantasy, right? You see this all the time. A lot of the players now, they tweet out, that since fantasy has become such a huge business, right? It's exactly what it is. I mean, it's a business. And it drives now the popularity interest. But I think you see that disconnect still today where the frustrations come out on the fan side and the players are like, hey, you have to remember, like, we're humans. Like, we don't care about your fantasy.
Yeah.
Then you got the fans are upset. So like, well, us being interested in fantasy is what's driving your salary cap. More money in it. So it's a catch-22, right? I mean, it's like you're going to have that criticism when you have that money flowing into it because of, more fan interest.
No, I definitely get that side of it too. But it's like, in a way, we can all say that. Like, oh, I make more money when people buy more policies at my job because, heck, we're, but whatever. I just stay out of personal lives. That's my answer right there. So let's go on to the wide receiver position for the Miami Dolphins. And hey, if you guys are watching, you're new here. I see a couple of you guys are new. Make sure you stick around. Hit the like button, subscribe. Like I said, 760 subscribers. I need 1,000 before the NFL draft. Stick around. Actually, we have a draft show every Bobby. If you're behind the mic, I believe it's Friday nights. We have a draft show with all of our draft experts. So all your rookie questions and breakdowns, we got Josh Wingate over there always chiming in, Brett Legassi. You can find them on the Dolphins draft show right here on the
Friday night at 8 o'clock Eastern on the Fitz Talk.
There you go. There you go. There's Bobby, the old great producer, Bobby. So let's go over to the wide receivers. Man, I think they need a third. I really do think they need a third. And I think that Cedric Wilson was the biggest waste of money. I think he was a bigger waste than Byron Jones.
I agree with you. They need a third option, right? Because you see down the stretch, I mean, some of those guys, luckily we stayed pretty healthy, right, with Waddle and Tyreek. But you saw points in the game where some of those guys have to come out for a few plays, whether it's Tyreek with cramps, whether it's Waddle banging up his leg or his ankle or whatever, and they come off the field. And it just seems like immediately – it just changes the dynamic of the offense, right? Mm-hmm. And you can't have that when you have an offense that's predicated on space and these guys getting open and Tua throwing to a spot. You need those guys who are yak monsters who can get open very quickly. And I think you see that skill set that meshes so well with Tua. And I agree with you. I like the Cedric Wilson signing at the time as a contributor, as a role player. I didn't think he would be someone that'd be majorly impactful to the offense, but man, he was a major bust. I mean, just absolutely just a ghost. I think he made like one good play that I can remember, and that's about it. I think
did he make one?
I think it was the second Bills game. I think he had a big catch on 3rd or 4th down, and that's it, man. That's all I remember last year from Cedric Wilson. But I agree with you 100%. But I think that third option, can and probably will come from the tight end position. I think that you look at a guy like Darnell Washington from Georgia, and you look at his ability to block, above average blocker, right, for Georgia, great receiving tight end as well, right? So that's an option in the draft. I think that you see the Dolphins kind of go away from Mike Gesicki. I don't think he's gonna come back, right? I think that's him. And I think you're looking for another pass catching option there that can fit the offense a little bit better. So that may be a move that they make either in free agency or in the draft. But I think that third pass catching option may come out of the tight end position.
Yeah, a good time. I'm waiting on Hunter Long to do something, to just like do something, because he's been stuck on my my dynasty teams ever since his rookie year, and he's just zero every week. And I'm like, dude, like what happened? I thought you were supposed to be something. Yeah. But I would really like a solid Waddle, solid, right? Little bit of drops into the season. Tyreek's basically the deep threat and a third down guy. Yep. I would like to give Tyreek some relief on that third down work and get one of these guys. Like, I don't know who. I was looking at the free agency list. I don't want someone like a Juju. He could stay in Kansas City. But I was looking at DJ Chark. He could be had. He's cheap. He's a little older, but he's still a solid player. He made some good plays over there in Detroit. He's a free agent. I'd like to bring him over. I'm not sure it's possible with the cap situation. I don't know how that works. I'm just a fantasy guy. I'm not a capologist. Yeah. But I just need to see something more than Sherfield and Craycraft. Brian, it just drove me nuts when they caught a freaking football. And I'm like, why? Where's Cedric? $8 million. Where's Cedric Wilson?
No, I agree. But I think you're seeing that like the production come from those guys because they know the offense, right? They fit the offense better. You see these guys that are willing to pass block, right? And you like in this offense, you have to have guys that are willing blockers, right? And look, Gesicki's a hell of an athlete, but if the guy is in the NFL for 4 years and he doesn't get any better as a pass blocker, in my opinion, at that point, that's kind of effort, right? It's like, how do you not improve after practicing on your weakness for 4 years, right? Then the effort must not be there. I think he just wants to be a receiver. So I think they move on. I think that you find a guy that kind of meshes in that role a little bit better. That's why you saw guys like Trent Sherfield and Craycraft making plays last year, right? But I agree. I think they definitely need a guy who's a little bit more dynamic in that third role. I like DJ Chark. Again, all it comes down to the salary cap situation, right? I don't think there's a lot in free agency, right? I mean, you look at guys like Myers. I think he's going to end up getting too much money. Not a guy I'd want to pay for what he's probably going to get. Juju, I agree with you. I think just kind of like middle of the road. I think he peaked right his rookie season. So I think they look to maybe the draft if they're going to try to add another option there. But Eric Ezukama, I mean, guy didn't see the field last year. I don't know why. I think a lot of Dolphins fans are curious why. He's making plays in training camp and preseason, but never saw the field. So I don't know if that's a development thing. I don't know if there's some other behind-the-scenes issues going on there, but he could be the third guy if he continues to develop.
Yes. I brought this up many times last year throughout the season as a trend. Every team has three solid every elite team has three solid options, right? With Buffalo, you have Knox, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs. Same thing with, the Bengals, Boyd, Chase, and Higgins. I believe you need that. I believe that you need that in this day and the age, whether it be a tight end or that third slot receiver, like a Hunter Renfrow type. That'd be awesome for Miami to have. I wonder if they ever had a guy like Wes Welker. That would have been awesome if they ever had that. Right? Gosh.
Really nice that guy, right?
Yeah, it would have been awesome. I don't know. You tell me. But I just believe, I feel like the fantasy outlook for this season coming into this is going to be great. I do. If Tua is healthy, I believe he's going to be a top. That's what it boils down to. We're talking about their potential going into the 2023 season. I do believe we're going to see Tua finish in the top 8 at least. I feel like Waddle and Tyreek are still going to both be top 12 guys because they're just that good. The running back position is so bleak. I don't even know what to think. I'm avoiding that situation at all costs. And that's what it's all about. It's just good to see our guys at the top.
Yeah.
It's been a while, right?
Gosh. I can't remember the last time, right?
When's the last time? Ricky Williams was the last first-round pick I can remember taking as a Miami Dolphins. Other than that, Tyreek's now – last year even though, Tyreek was a 4th-round pick last year. Yeah. His ADP. This year he'll be first. So that's pretty good to see. But hey, Brian, it's been good having you on. I've been, we talk once in a while. You're a good friend, great Dolphins fan. Of course, Gator stuff sucks. Like, I'm sorry, but so I'm a Hurricane guy, as you know. Hurricanes, they suck. At least I'm not Florida State. Like that's the worst. That's the worst of the worst.
We'll get along.
Brian, anything you want to plug? I know you make these hats. They're freaking sleek. Do you want to throw that out there?
Yeah, so I got a Jaylen Waddle logo. You can find it on my handle, which is on there. Actually, Brian Richie 2. There's a 2 on the end now because long story, but my old Twitter got frozen, got locked out of that one, so I had to start a new one. So the handle's the same as on the screen there, Brian_Richie, but the number 2 at the end. I've got a pinned tweet on there. I've got a Jaylen Waddle logo. It's pretty sweet. Been pretty popular. I got sort of the Miami Vice color scheme on that. So those have been popular. I got those in stock. Can order them anytime. Thinking about probably doing some other styles on shirts and other hats and stuff in the future. But go to my Twitter, check it out, and let's support Jaylen Waddle in this explosive offense.
Yes. I'm going to link that into the YouTube and the podcast. You can find us on Fins Talk Sports Network. Again, I'm your host, Josh Kimmel OUS. Again, all you podcast listeners, go to our YouTube channel, Fins Talk Sports Network. We're at 760 subscribers. Like I said, get it up there. I know you're listening on the podcast. I see the numbers. Let's bring you over to the channel, see my pretty face, see our guest pretty face. Next week, another episode, we're going to be breaking down the total AFC East. We're going to talk about the Bills. We're going to talk about the not Dolphins as much, the Jets, and those nasty. I don't even want to bring up the Patriots, losers. All right. So see you guys next week. Bobby, play my music. If he's still there.